Okay, and it looks like it says I'm live. I know I'm alive, but I don't know whether I'm live. So, people, give me a check on whether I'm around and this is working or not. Just let me know whether you can hear me and see me, because that'd be good. Next 2 hours is going to go a lot better if that's the case. Hi, Dick. Hi, Peter. Let's see. It's 12 people here. That's pretty good for the start of things. Patrick says all clear here. Terrific. And Dick says, just finished a nice Chinese dinner, a succulent Chinese meal, washed up and ready to watch a live stream. Even Roxy has now come down to join in watching. Hi, Roxy. How you doing? I've got an espresso here. I've got a bit of a list about what I want to talk about. Not an extensive one, so we're going to wing it. But, yeah, it's a sunny morning here. It's going to be 30 degrees. All is right with the universe. Hi, Peter. How you going? I was in your state a week and a bit ago, as far as just going to Mount Gambier and then fanging it back again. But yeah, okay, so Dick says everything's okay in Dover. So we're going to start. Yesterday was a good day. Yesterday, and I've just dropped something, so give me a sec. Yesterday, I went and had breakfast with my nieces, two of my nieces. I've got a lot of nieces. But I had breakfast with two of my nieces, Lizzie and Tam, and got to meet the family. I got to meet Lizzie's husband, Dan. I got to meet Tam's partner, Millie. And I got to meet my grandnephew, Theo, who's a year old. That's what the thumbnail on this video is, me holding Theo. Year old. Hi, Deb. Hi, Ralph from Clearwater in Florida. Yeah, so I got to hold a baby for 20 minutes. And that's not in my skill set. But he and I got on fabulously. Me and this little bundle of 1-year-old instincts got on terrifically well. And being a grunkle is a cool thing. So I got to do all of that, got to catch up with the fam, had a great time with it. And I recommend it. But Ralph, you're in Clearwater, Florida. Isn't that full of Scientologists? Let me know. But yeah, so great day. What's the weather like in Nipaluna, Deb? Because my sister-in-law is there at the moment. She's going to fly back tomorrow. They've been spending all their time around Tassie and doing all the things. But yeah, so good day yesterday. Had a terrific time. Cats weren't happy because I hadn't fed them, but it is what it is. That's why I didn't watch a movie yesterday. I was too busy. Ralph says, yep, and the local government wants to give away the town to them. Of course they do. Hi, for sale. Hi, Mystery Man in Colorado. Yeah, we should be able to get you out of there. We'll get some letters of transit signed by General de Gaulle, and you can pick them up in Casablanca. It's really funny because looking at Casablanca now is kind of odd because watching Casablanca, which I love, I've got it on 4K. All these people are trying to get letters of transit to escape the Nazis and get to America. We've now got it reversed. Everybody's trying to escape from America to get away from the Nazis. So what we need to do is like have a Rick's Cafe American in Mexico or somewhere where people can get letters of transit and get to Australia or England or Canada even. You could do a remake of Casablanca and flip the narrative, and I think that'd really sell well. What do people think? And I'm not getting political beyond that. It just occurred to me. It was a momentary brain fart. Deb says Nipaluna is overcast this morning, but mild. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're going to get 30, so I'm kind of happy with that. I like the temperature in the daytime around 30 degrees. It suits me okay. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about all the movies I watched this year because this year is 19 days old and I watched 18 movies. So I'm going to be doing that as a part of this. Let's see, I've got my list here, which is very small. And also watched a TV series that's just started and is pissing off a lot of people. And I don't know why it's pissing off a lot of people, but it is. Deb says, love your pics with Theo. Theo is a great kid. I mean, he was really engaged with the world. He liked me, which shows he has excellent taste in character. But yeah, I had a great time with Theo. And I'll just show you one of the pictures. I won't show you his face because I don't have permission from his parents to do that. But I do have a picture of me and the Leo. That's this one. There's me and the grandnephew, little Spud. Had to be taught how to hold a baby. That's my skill set. Hey Lee, how you doing? Yucky da, dude. Ralph says we've all got to sing La Marseillaise together and drown out the BS coming from the inmates running the asylum. You do. Les enfants de la patrie, all that stuff. Yeah, I think Casablanca needs a remake. Somebody give me $50 million and I'll do it. I'll just hire people to do it. I won't actually do anything myself besides getting a producer credit. I don't know whether I mentioned this on the channel or not, but I'm actually going to be part of a documentary. Julian over at Collector Creations, one of the YouTube channel I recommend, is interviewing people who collect physical media for a documentary he's doing. The documentary may be released on YouTube, but he's looking to see if he can get a film festival release from when it's all compiled. He's already interviewed one person. He's going to interview me in about a week's time. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to be fun. Never been interviewed before face to face. I've done a couple of online interviews about things, but I haven't actually been interviewed face to face. So that's going to be a new thing, and I don't mind that at all. Hey, Lee, what's the weather like in Wales? Yeah, so got that to look forward to. It's an interesting year so far. Yeah, there hasn't been entirely without incident, but in general, it's been a good year so far. Middle-aged geek girl is not going to be moderating today, by the way. She's away. She's still in Moe, house sitting for her sister, Kaz. And I pick her up tomorrow morning. I'm going to drive down to the Latrobe Valley and pick her up. Haven't seen her for 10 days. So we're going to do that. And I'm also, before I pick her up, I'm picking up our other nephew, Billy, from the airport. So we're going to pick up Billy and then drive out, pick up Sal, and the band gets back together. So I've got a lot of that kind of stuff to do tomorrow. But why could you say Casablanca if you remade it with the narrative flipped? There'd have to be somewhere offshore from America that people had to travel to. Let me think. What do you think? It'd have to be Mexico or somewhere in South America because you need an exotic location for a remake of Casablanca. So, somewhere like, no, it couldn't be Zamboanga in the Philippines because that's controlled by Muslim extremist groups. Let's see. Couldn't do it that far down. Maybe Cancun. Have Rick's Cafe American in Cancun or somewhere like that. Because that'll work. That'd be an interesting thing. Cuba, says Dick. See you in CUBA. Yeah, you could do Cuba, which would be kind of interesting and would piss off all the right people. But yeah, Cuba would be okay. Maybe Jamaica. Jamaica would have a nice vibe about it. And you could put like reggae into the soundtrack, which would be kind of interesting. Deb says Venezuela. Yeah, well, Venezuela's, yeah, they're more likely to get bombed. Geek girl came with a nice family, says Mr. Man. Yeah, she is. Her family's nice. And the house sitting has been good for her. She's been dog sitting as well. So all that stuff. Let's see. Let me think. Yucatan, somewhere in Yucatan, because Yucatan sounds cool for Rick's Cafe American. Greenland, says Dick. No, you got to have somewhere tropical. You got to be able to have people be able to walk in without looking like the Michelin Man. Who do you cast in the hypothetical remake? You got to have an American expatriate. I reckon Clooney. Get George Clooney to play Rick, which would be kind of cool. That'll work. Weather's miserable in Wales, says Lee. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but then it is that time of year, isn't it? 6 months from now, I'll be complaining about the weather and you won't. So we get Clooney to play Rick. Who will we get to play Sam without it being anyway kind of a racially charged thing? Just trying to think. Someone musical. Lee says, though polling for the May elections looks like I might get elected. Wow, that'd be interesting, having a politician on the live chat. We could definitely do something with that. Peter was going to say Yucatan, Cozumel Island. Yeah, that'll work. So we're going to have that there. So Sam would be replaced by an AI jukebox. That'd be great. An AI Sam. Still giving good advice, but making it word salad. That'd be kind of interesting. That'd be very topical. Now then you got to have Renault, who is the guy who's in charge of things. So maybe Benicio del Toro to play Renault, the equivalent of Renault in a Casablanca redone for the modern era. That'd be good. And Ugarte, you've got to have somebody really sleazy and slimy to play Ugarte. I think Paul Giamatti. That'd work. And then you've got to get an Ilsa, but you've got to have an age-appropriate one because Clooney's in his 60s now. So maybe Julianne Moore to play Elsa. That'd work. Lady Gaga as Sam or Elton John, says Deb. No, I don't like Elton John. Elton John just doesn't have the vibe as an actor. I saw him in that Kingsman movie. He couldn't act his way out of a parking ticket. You need someone charismatic. Maybe a Lady Gaga, Ralph. That might work. Yeah, that'd be cool. Or who else would we do? Kate McKinnon playing Sam. Have a lesbian actor playing Sam. I think that'd be kind of cool. And then you got to have the big bad. You've got to have who is going to play the character who's the Nazi. We're going to have someone for the Nazi. Let me see. Who will we get for that? John Voight. He's halfway there anyway. Or you get a good actor who isn't, but is willing to play. I think Mark Ruffalo playing against his political beliefs, playing the Nazi. That'll work. We should fund this. This is work. Having that flip on Casablanca just to piss off all of the correct people. Zambi says, that's my grandchild. No, it's my grandnephew. I'm a grunkle. And that's Theo. Willem Dafoe says, Deb, yeah, Willem Dafoe would be good. Willem Dafoe could play the shit out of a Nazi character. Patrick says, James Wood, yeah, I mean, he's already there, but he wouldn't be in this kind of movie. He wouldn't go for it. Definitely not James Wood, I think, because he would definitely not agree with it. Yeah, I'm a grunkle to a whole bunch of little kitty winkies now. Wayne Knight as Senior Ferrari. No, we've got to do something better than Wayne Knight as Ferrari. Let's see. Forsyth says John Voight. Ferrari, we've got to have somebody who would do that. Let's have a look here. Ferrari. We don't have to have somebody corpulent because we can flip that narrative as well. Let's see. Who will we get? Leonardo DiCaprio to play Ferrari. That'd be genius. Zami says, have I seen Begonia yet? No, it's on my list and I've got it ready and waiting, but I haven't seen Begonia yet. But I will do. I might do it for Science Fiction Saturday in the future, but haven't seen it yet. I don't know whether I'm going to get a chance to this week. That's the thing. I suddenly got busy. I mean, normally I'm doing the channel and that's the main focus of my week. and doing channel stuff and planning it and recording and editing, doing all that jazz. But I've actually got real well busy over the last month. Yeah, about the last month and a month and a half. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to having a more sedentary and more interior life than I've had. I don't mind it. I mean, I like to change and it's interesting, but it means I've got to reschedule all of the fun stuff like doing the channel differently because there's stuff happening in the real world. Lee's seen Hamnet. What an amazingly powerful film. I'm going to talk about another powerful film on this live stream as well, Lee. So hold that thought. Haven't seen it yet, but I want to see it. And also, while the nephew Billy is down, I've got to see a movie with him because we always see a movie together when he comes down. And it's my turn to pick the movie. Last one I picked was Late Night with the Devil, which was really good. His last pick, which was the last one we saw, was the Minecraft movie, which I didn't mind. I didn't think it was bad. I've played a little bit of Minecraft, but this time around it's my pick. So I've got a few possibilities that I'm going to watch. But I did see a very powerful movie on Thursday. I went across town to Carlton to the Cinema Nova, and I saw a movie. But I'm going to talk about that just a little bit from now. We'll stay on the Casablanca thing. Now, let's see, what else do we need? Who's going to direct it? Who's going to direct my remake of Casablanca? Let me think. Director. Catherine Bigelow. I want to go with a woman director. I think Catherine Bigelow can ramp up the tension nicely. So I think I've nailed that down. That's my remake of Casablanca, which I think is going to piss off all the right people, but hit the zeitgeist well. $50 million budget. Someone wants to give me a $50 million budget. I'll produce it. I'll get everybody together and we'll do it. For sale, watch The Bone Temple. It's like an updated version of Charlie Manson and his family. I am going to see that. I don't know whether that's the one I'm going to go and see with Billy, but I'm definitely going to see Bone Temple. I like the most recent one, but I will go and see that. I also kind of want to see Anaconda because I'm not taking Billy to see that because the last movie we saw was a Jack Black film. But I do want to see it, and I'll have a good time with that. D. Lee's here. Hi. Speaking of films that resonate, I saw a 1929 British science fiction, High Treason, in which the US and Europe are prodded into war with each other. I've actually seen that. There's two versions of that one. There's a sound version, and there's also a version with a silent movie version of it. I'm going to have to see if I can find a copy of that too. And we've got chats with the Zoomies in the house. But let me just check something out here. Yeah, so my Casablanca's nailed down. I'm going to have to make a note of that. And I really like the fact that we're getting so much good cinema. And I will talk about the movie that I was going to talk about, which I went to a preview of, a media preview, because I'm traveling in those circles now. D. Lee saw the silent version of High Treason with the live piano. So what I saw was The Secret Agent with Wagner Moura playing a guy in 1977 Brazil when it was under the military dictatorship, who is basically a refugee inside his own country. Just give me a moment. I'll get all the details here, which I should have had up, but I didn't. That movie is amazing. It's the best film I've seen so far in 2026. It was directed by Kleber Mendoza Filho, and it's got a character called Armando, played by Wagner Moura, who's a former professor. He's working with lithium battery technologies. And he gets caught up in the political turmoil of the Brazilian dictatorship. He flees back to his hometown of Recife in the northern part of Brazil. And he's hidden by an underground group which is hiding people who are political refugees within the country. and slowly getting them forced passports and getting them to go out of the country. Now, Armando has a young son, a little boy, who he wants to escape with him. And the story covers Armando hiding and in plain sight in Recife and working in a place that does identity cards. So he's working for the government under an assumed name because the underground is everywhere in Brazil in 1977. But what he doesn't know is the man he pissed off to become a refugee within his own country is sending a two-man hit squad to take him out. And these guys are incredibly lethal. We see them at the start of the film taking out somebody else. But then they're coming after Armando, who's living under the name Marcelo. And this movie is incredible. It's tense. It's for the 90% of it set in 1977. And it feels like 1977. The evocation of time in this film is amazing. Everything's there. People are using payphones and telephones. There's part of it set in a cinema where Armando's father-in-law works and runs the cinema. And so they're all talking about wanting to see Jaws, and they're all talking, and we get a little bit of The Omen showing in the cinema. And there were like nervous ladies coming out having seen Jaws and having nervous fits after they've watched the movie. But for the most part, it's an incredibly tense political thriller. And it's got a slow, gradual burn. And that evocation of a time and a place, about which I knew incredibly little, is amazing. Wagner Moura playing Armando is terrific. The supporting cast is incredible. The old lady who runs the boarding house, which is a refuge for these people, amazing actress. All the supporting cast is great. The guys playing the criminals who are setting up the hit is incredible. There are some fantastic one-ers in this where people are chasing each other through the streets of Recife. Incredible film. That one I recommend a lot. I want to get it on physical media when it comes out. It's already won the Golden Globe for the best foreign language film of 2025. And if it doesn't win the Oscar for best foreign language film, there's no justice there. It's a beautiful film, beautiful saturated color, fantastic diegetic music in there. You got to see that one. Blew me away. And it's one of those movies that I watch a lot of trash, and you're going to see that when I talk about the other films I've watched in 2026. But occasionally I'll watch a quality film, a film that is like God tier compared to the stuff I usually watch. And then I think I've got to watch more good films. And I do for a little while, and then I stop doing it. I don't know why, but that's what happens. So The Secret Agent, get out and see it. It is incredibly worth it. Zami Adams says, what's my favorite Altman film? I kind of like MASH. I also like The Player. They'd probably be my two favorite ones. But yeah, and I went to Cinema Nova over in Carlton, which is 40 kilometers away from where I live, and I took public transport. And Carlton is a very posh, kind of artistic area of Melbourne. And so I went around there. I saw a few people I knew at the preview. And then I had to get a train replacement bus home. And I didn't get home till 11:30 at night. Diego says, thank you. Well, I'm not sure what for, but you're welcome. Yeah, so The Secret Agent, loved it. Ralph says, I love the films you talk about. Almost no one else talks about most of them. Well, that's the whole thing with this gig of doing YouTube. Everybody's talking about the last thing that came out in the mainstream, the tentpoles, the stuff that cost 100 million plus. Everybody's having long discussions about that. But in order to be in any way successful and to get an audience, you've got to differentiate yourself within YouTube. And the way I do that is I try to find hidden gems and obscurities. Don't always do that, but when I can, I try to find obscure stuff. I try to find stuff that's not on the mainstream radar. And sometimes it's a nostalgia thing. I know nostalgia hits well for the people who watch this channel, and so I do a fair bit of nostalgia stuff. But I don't want to feel trapped by that. And sometimes the possibility exists that I feel trapped by just talking about nostalgia. So I'm trying to mix it up. New stuff, medium, old stuff, all of that kind of thing. I'm attempting to balance that stuff out and make it work for you as an audience, but also make it work for me, because I like staying passionate about movies. But if I'm just doing it because it's the latest thing and I've got to review the latest thing, all of that kind of stuff, the possibility exists it's going to become a little burdensome in a way. And I don't want that. Yeah, I did get invited. I do get invited previously, and I do review some new films, which I try to keep within genre. But for the most part, I really don't want to just talk about every movie that everybody else is talking about. And if I do talk about a movie that everybody else is talking about, I try to bring my own spin to it and try to bring my perceptions, which are difficult to do sometimes, and also different from the perceptions of a lot of other people who are reviewing movies on YouTube, because most of them are decades and decades younger than me. And so they don't have the same perception of cinema that I do, which is fine. I mean, diversity of viewpoint, diversity of opinion is great in YouTube and in movie reviewing in general. But I'm always trying to look for that unique thing that I can bring to a review, or I can bring to talking about a genre or something that most other people don't have. There's an art to it. And I'm very much a kind of journeyman artist with this stuff. But I really love finding a movie that nobody's talking about and extolling its virtues as I see them. So I'll start with my letterboxd. I've only watched 18 movies. I'm a day behind because my goal for every year is to watch one movie a day on average. But I've only watched 18 rather than 19 because it's now the 19th here. So what have I watched? This is interesting, and I'm just going to have another sip of water. I did the New Year's Eve live stream, which goes from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. my time. It went well. It was a great live stream. It was one of the best I've done. But after you do a live stream of any kind, you're buzzed. You're in a kind of performance high. You've got the adrenaline going. Your mind is racing. The little cogs are going around madly. So I wasn't ready to go to sleep. So I watched a movie. I went to Tubi because that's the low effort way of doing it. And I watched a Doris Wishman film just after New Year's Eve, like in the first hours of 2026. I watched a Doris Wishman nudie film from the 1960s because I just wanted to wind down, and that's what I was doing. So I watched a film called The Prince and the Nature Girl from 1965. The leader of a small kingdom falls in love with a beautiful American girl, only to be shocked when he finds out that she's a nudist. So I watched that. And to be honest with you, it was the right movie to watch because it's like 58 minutes. It's got 1960s nudist camp stuff in it, which is going to keep me engaged. And it's silly. It's Doris Wishman's movies are a kind of acquired taste. And the music's always a bit goofy and weird. I think it's mostly some guy from a small band in a nightclub playing the vibraphone. But I didn't mind watching that. That was just a little bit of fun. And it wound me down perfectly for just being able to get to sleep in the first hours of 2026. Deb says, I'm really looking forward to The Secret Agent opens here next month. Recommended, Deb. Fantastic film. It's a little long. And there's a moment in there, and I'm not going to spoil anything, I promise. But there's a moment in there where you suddenly see something that looks anachronistic, but it's not. It's an extension of the story. And I like the way it's handled in this movie. It's really a powerful film. Hey, Cinema Dave. Hi, hope you're doing well. So cold here, I'm ready for spring. Yeah, it's going to be 30 degrees centigrade here today, Dave. I've seen what it looks like outside your window on your channel. And people should check out Dave's stuff as well at Cinema Dave Media. Yeah, stay warm, mate. Hope you both stay warm there. So, yeah, I watched a Doris Wishman nudie film as my first movie of 2026. And when I add to my letterbox, that's going to be the thing that pops up first on there. The next thing I saw is another movie on Tubi. Because I was digging the bottom of the barrel, to be honest with you. From 2023, directed by Mitch Jenkins, a movie called A Million Days. I'll read you the blurb from my letterboxd. On the eve of an historic lunar mission, an astronaut discovers a sinister artificial intelligence plot aimed at derailing the expedition. As tensions soar and trust unravels, Anderson races against time to unveil the true motives of the AI. With the fate of humanity at stake, he navigates a treacherous path to save the mission and secure the future against an imminent threat. This one's incredibly low budget for a movie with that kind of bold concept. But it's not bad. It's basically set in the house of the astronaut. His wife is working on artificial intelligence stuff, and there's an assistant who's also working on this. And it's in the hours just before he takes off for this lunar mission. And the AI is discussing with the humans on whether humanity will survive moving off world because the world's going to shit. And it's kind of a thought piece, but it's not bad. It's not as slick and professional as a much larger movie would be, but it's kind of interesting. It brings up some interesting concepts. It's got a couple of special effects shots, which are minimal, but it's somebody who's got a concept for a movie and has to shrink it down to a budget rather than expand it to its natural size. And that's a pity. There are often movies like that that have got big ideas and ideas that could land in a much larger movie, but the budget and the resources available don't allow that. That's interesting stuff. And that one, not the best movie ever, but you can see what they were aiming at. And what they were aiming at was worth aiming at, if you know what I mean. Dave says, my first movie for 2026 was a rewatch of Dr. Strangelove. Yeah, why not? That hits the zeitgeist perfectly, that movie. It's the spirit of our times. Zoe Adams is hiring a cinema thinking of showing Soldier Blue. Yeah, it's not going to have an upbeat ending, but I watched that. I've actually got a copy of it on 4K, and it looks fantastic on 4K. And it is a really interesting film. Peter says, Tubi is great when you're in the mood for bad movies, or really good movies that are really old. That's the other thing with Tubi. Tubi varies as well. I've got a browser here that's got a VPN attached to it. So I can watch overseas Tubi. And there's a lot of different movies on American Tubi compared to Australian Tubi, and UK Tubi compared to Australian Tubi. But I've got the Opera browser that's got a built-in VPN, and that works for me when I want to diversify my Tubi viewing. But it does mean I've got to watch it on the TV rather than watch it on the computer rather than watch it on the TV. So that was the second movie I watched. Third movie I watched, even lower budget, and I was staying on Tubi for some reason. This is a movie from 2001 that was produced by the musician Moby. It's set in an adult video store on Christmas Eve. And it's called Alien Sex Party. It's kind of like Clerks set in an adult video store. It also sells a lot of appliances for self-pleasure. And they also get, interestingly enough, they do get one of the actors from Clerks to be in it as well. Which one was it again? I'm trying to think. Brian O'Halloran from Clerks turns up as the same character, but they never actually explicitly say that. This one's incredibly low budget. It says a comic frenzy filled with sex, music, science fiction, and all combinations thereof, as well as a dildo festooned Moby. In an adult video store on Christmas Eve, we join Joe, an owner who's terrified by his own merchandise because he's inherited the store. Adam, an employee spouting indignation about everything, and Tina, who is very sex positive, as weird things come on, and there's actually an alien who turns up coming into the store on New Year's Eve. There's lots of little vignettes with it. It's kind of fun and kind of silly. It's got some music in it, which works. But if you're in the mood for that kind of underground cult movie kind of thing, Alien Sex Party is not a bad thing. Zami Adams says Figures in a Landscape's another one. Yeah, Figures in a Landscape's an interesting film. It's like pared down to hell. Two people fleeing a dictatorship and being chased by soldiers and helicopters. Amazing, pared back movie, that one. Sorry, I'm a little dehydrated. The weather's been quite warm here. So I can recommend Alien Sex Party, oddly enough, which is kind of not something I was expecting to say in my life. Next one I saw was 2021's Black Friday, which is set Black Friday in a large shopping complex, like a big Walmart type store. A group of toy store employees must protect each other from a horde of parasite-infected shoppers. Yeah, it's got Bruce Campbell in it, Devon Sawa's in it, nobody else of any note, and it's kind of mid. Sally enjoyed it when she saw it. I remember she saw it a couple of years ago and recommended it to me. But Black Friday, I can't wholeheartedly recommend. It doesn't hit any different beats than a lot of other alien parasites infect people, and people go into Rio Bravo mode to defend themselves against it. Bruce Campbell playing a little against type, which is nice. The other actors are kind of interesting. They do try to give them a bit of backstory and a bit of life, but a lot of it's arguing about the character of each person. So there's a lot of bitching and moaning among these employees in this toy store. And none of the characters is really likable, which I think is the downside. Yes, they do reveal more about themselves and they become a little more comprehensible. But the viewpoint characters are not likable at all in Black Friday. And I think that's a weakness in this kind of film. But I watched that because, again, it was on Tubi, and Tubi was sucking up my attention at that moment in time, and for some of the other films I've watched as well. You guys want me to continue with the list? Because the chat has frozen, which is a little concerning. Maybe there was an ad going. Dave says, love Tubi, Pluto TV, and Roku TV. We only have Tubi here. We don't have Pluto or Roku here. But we make do. I mean, we do have Broly, the Umbrella Entertainment one. And we do have ABC iView, which is the national broadcaster, and SBS On Demand, which is the other national broadcaster. And they do show some interesting films at times. But their selection of cinema is a little more limited. Okay, next one I went back with an old favorite, which I have a really good imprint copy of. Sam Peckinpah movie, 1975. The Killer Elite with James Caan, Robert Duvall, Arthur Hill, Bo Hopkins, Burt Young, Gig Young. I like this movie. I saw it in the cinemas when it came out. But it's probably my favorite, apart from Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. It's my second favorite Sam Peckinpah movie. And James Caan plays Mike Locken, He's a member of a group of freelance spies. A significant portion of their works with the CIA, and while on a case with them, one of his friends turns on him and shoots him in the elbow and knee, and he has to bring himself back and gets the chance to get revenge on this former friend of his, played by Robert Duvall, while they're protecting some Middle Eastern politician and his family from an assassination squad in San Francisco. I really like this film. I think it's great. I think it's one of James Caan's better performances. And I like the action sequences. Burt Young's really good as the wheelman for the group. The bureaucrats, Arthur Hill and Gig Young, are really, really nasty. Bo Hopkins plays one of the guys that Lockham brings into his team. And Bo Hopkins is a lot of fun in this one. Really an interesting film. And they have a really good climax in the mothball fleet in one of the bays near San Francisco. Really like it. The remake, don't like it, even though it was made in Melbourne. The remake Killer Elite with Statham and De Niro is shit compared to this. Sammy Adams says, check out The House with the Yellow Carpet from 1983. Let me just look it up. Does it have yellow carpet because the dog is incontinent? Let's have a look here. Is it like a giallo? It looks like a giallo to me. It's directed by Carlo Lazzani. I'll keep that tab open and I'll look into that later. Thank you. Forsyth says, Killer Elite was great. It's part of the second golden age of cinema, yeah. And I think even though Peckinpah was on the piss at the time and not at his best, I still think the movie works. And rewatching it, I enjoyed it. It was really, it's one of those vulgar pleasures that we have in cinema. So what's that? And then I've talked about a couple of movies that I've talked about on the channel already. I watched Edgar Wright's The Running Man from 2025 with Glenn Powell, an actor that I'm not as fond of as Glenn Powell is. And then I watched Attack of the 50-Foot Woman with Alison Hayes and Yvette Vickers and William Hudson. Talked about that one as well on Science Fiction Saturday. And that was more fun to watch than The Running Man. Then I went back to Tubi because, of course, I did. And I watched a 2025 movie made by Latinas, queer Latinas. It's a movie called Dead in Love. And I enjoyed it. I think this one's kind of cute. And the relationships in it feel engaging in a way that much larger films often don't. So Dead in Love, the ghost of a bisexual young woman becomes enamored with an attractive couple living in her former home. She's stuck living in her former home. She uses her poltergeist ability to haunt her way into their hearts in this paranormal, polyamorous romantic comedy. And it works. I really enjoyed this film. I'm not the demographic for it. I'll tell you right off the bat, I'm not the demographic for a movie about bisexual Latina ghosts. But I like it. Her mother is overbearing, and her father's a ghost who is attached to her mother, so she can only see her father's ghost when they come to visit, when her mother comes to visit. And that's kind of an interesting conceit. It's all about relationships, families. The beautiful couple who move into their house are beautiful, but they have their own schisms in their relationship, which work out really interestingly. And basically, she becomes a throuple with this couple. It doesn't have overwhelming amounts of nudity in it, but the characters are engaging. They're fun. The dialogue's crisp and clever, and it really works. Franny's here. Hi, Franny. Deb says, I bought new TV recently that doesn't support Broly. Yeah, my TV doesn't either, so I watch it on the computer. Zami says, check out All My Friends Hate Me from 2021. I will. No, but yeah, Dead in Love is a really interesting little film, and I want to see more from Nicole de Meneses, who's the director of that. I think it's very low budget. It's pretty much set in one house, but it's got a heart, and it's funny and it's wise at the same time. And you don't always get that from low budget films. You don't get that. You know how some films, the dialogue and the arc of the film have a wisdom about them and a self-reflective riz. This one does, and that surprised me a bit. Yeah, so what's the weather like up there Friday? So I watched that, and then I watched Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker with the wonderful Susan Tyrrell. I've just talked about that on the channel. Really, really enjoyed that one. A hidden gem slasher film with a fantastic lead role by Susan Tyrrell. Really, really, really good. Franny says, sorry I missed the last chat. It was the day after my birthday. I had a lovely birthday with friends. We watched Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde. Not a bad way to spend your birthday, and happy birthday belatedly, Franny. Yeah, it was such a good time yesterday with the fam. But it's always good to get together with people who are like-minded and just shoot the shit for hours. It really works. It's refreshing. Next film I watched is bad. I'm going to tell you right out. Again, it's another one from Tubi because I have really been hitting Tubi this year. 1957's The Story of Mankind, directed by Irwin Allen. The devil and the spirit of mankind argue as to whether or not humanity is ultimately good or evil. Very timely thing. It's got a whole bunch of historic vignettes in it. The cast is next level. Ronald Coleman, Hedy Lamarr, Groucho Marx, Harpo Marx, Chico Marx, Virginia Mail, Agnes Moorehead, Vincent Price playing the devil, Peter Lorre, Cedric Hardwicke, Cesar Romero, John Carradine, Dennis Hopper playing Napoleon. Edward Everett Horton's in there as well. Reginald Garner, Marie Windsor, Franklin Pangborn, Henry Daniel, Francis X. Bushman, Nick Cravat. Incredible cast. But it's a very self-conscious, dumb film about the Tribunal of Outer Space judging whether humanity should survive. And the spirit of mankind, played by Ronald Coleman, is arguing in court against the devil, played by Vincent Price. This movie should be better than it is. It's very self-conscious. Friday says it's cold, but the snow only lasted as long as my birthday, so it's a bit warmer now. Yeah, we don't get snow. We get dust storms and we get bushfire smoke, but we don't get snow. And we also get windstorms. Story of Mankind, I think, is on Tubi. And if you're so inclined, you can check that one out. Then I watched a great movie, one of the great comedies of the 1950s from England. The Bells of Centrinians, the first Centrinians movie. Alastair Sim playing a dual role as Frinton, the head of the school, and also her brother, who's a bookmaker. Joyce Grenfell, George Cole, Hermione Baddeley, Renee Houston, Beryl Reid, Irene Handel, Joan Sims. It's basically about Centrinians, the coolest school in England. And they're trying to stop the school from going bankrupt. And so they're getting some money from the daughter of a Middle Eastern oil sheikh in order to put it on a horse so they can win enough money to keep the school going. Barney says, I think Laird Cragar will always be my favourite devil in Heaven Can Wait. He was good. He was properly saturnine playing the devil and very urbane. I really like that. Plays it a little in the same way that Vincent Price did in The Story of Mankind. But I agree, he is one of the great devils. So Bells of Centrinians I really, really enjoy. based, of course, on the sketches by Ronald Searle. He was a prisoner of war during World War II, oddly enough. But I really like the Centrinians movies. My ultimate comedy film would be Centrinians versus Hogwarts. You get all of those anarchic but incredibly skilled schoolgirls going up against all the entitled magical bastards in Hogwarts. I think that's a winner as well. That would be a great movie. It'd be like old school versus new school. And it'd be even better because the principal is basically a man dressing up in drag, which would entirely piss off J.K. Rowling. I think that'd work. I think that'd be a fantastic movie to see. I would pay cash money to see that movie. But not everybody would agree. What do you guys think? By the way, super chats get the fart gun. Dave says I'm watching a lot of Jerry Lewis films. You French? The only Jerry Lewis movie I really like is The Nutty Professor, which I much prefer to the Eddie Murphy one, because The Nutty Professor's got a lot of zeitgeist of the early 60s about it, and Stella Stevens is very funny in it as well. Frank says, love the Centrinians movies. The two newer ones are good. I was in with the first new one when I heard the line, it's like hard works for pikeys. And Deb says, anything that pisses Rowling off gets my vote. Dave says, I think The Ladies' Man is really good in the Jerry Lewis movies. Yeah, your mileage may vary. For me, Nutty Professor would be the go-to one. I think Jerry Lewis was so much less without Dean Martin, whose straight man really held it together and was the rudder to the anarchic self-indulgence of Jerry Lewis's persona. But that's just my idea. So let's say I watched The Bells of Centrinians, loved it, had a good time, would watch it again. Then I watched a movie from 2003 directed by Stephen Fry. Bright Young Things with Stephen Campbell Moore, Emily Mortimer, Michael Sheen, James McAvoy, David Tennant, Stockard Channing, Dan Aykroyd, Simon McBurney, Jim Broadbent, Simon Callow, Peter O'Toole, and a cast of thousands. It's about the 1920s, 1930s jazz age young socialites who were called the Bright Young Things, some of whom became good writers. It's about an aspiring novelist who attempts to raise enough money to marry his girlfriend Nina, played by Emily Mortimer. However, after a customs official confiscates his first manuscript, he must recover from the financial setback and figure out new ways to earn money for a wedding. And yeah, this one kind of works for me. It's based on Evelyn Waugh novel called, I think, Vile Creatures or something like that. But it kind of works. The ending's a bit of a bummer because it ends in World War II, and nobody came out better for that. Lee loves Bright Young Things. I'm a fan of Evelyn Waugh generally. Yep. Lee also says that Stephen Fry is a much better director than he is an actor. I think he did well with it. It was ambitious, but the budget wasn't right up there. But the humor lands. It's worth checking out. I hadn't seen it before, and it came up on a list, and so I watched a copy of it. And yeah, it works. Now there are a couple of characters there you wanted to smack in the chops. There's a couple of characters who you understand why they are as they are as the movie progresses, and certain things manifest. But yeah, Deb says it's a good movie too. I think it is. I think the ending doesn't quite land for some reason. Maybe it's a little too pat. But yeah. And Friday says Peter's Friends is also worth checking out. Yeah, I've seen Peter's Friends years ago. I haven't seen it lately. But Peter's Friends is worth checking out. And Lee says Aykroyd as Otterdale is genius. Yeah, he really does play Lord Beaverbrook, which is who Otterdale was based on. Incredibly well. Canadian magnate running newspapers in England in the 1930s. And the bombast is there. And yeah, Aykroyd plays a different persona. And Lee says, I need to watch Peter Flint. Yeah, you do. It's got such a cool cast of all of those Oxbridge people. Emma Thompson and Stephen Fry and all that mob. May have to rewatch that one now. So I watched Bright Young Things. Then I watched Final Destination Bloodlines that I've talked about. Really lands. Final Destination Bloodlines is good. Tony Todd's last role. Just no notes on that one. It was fun. And yes, a lot of the glory, catastrophic effects are done with CG. But the audience doesn't mind that. They're expecting to see people die in imaginative, gory ways. And the movie delivers that. We expect the blood and the splatter to be CG. There's no expectation for anything to look photorealistic. And it works. And then I saw Frankenstein's Daughter. I've just talked about that. That one was fun. And the idea of a trans kind of Frankenstein monster is kind of weird. So I saw that. Then I saw The Secret Agent, which I've just talked about. Love that. And then I saw Time Cop, which I've just talked about. Didn't love that. Then I watched one of my favorite movies of all time, which is in the public domain. Cyrano de Bergerac, the 1950 version with Jose Ferreira, Muller Powers, and William Prince, based on the Ross Stone play. Love this. I think absolutely my favorite Cyrano is the Jose Ferreira one. He won the Best Actor Oscar for this movie, which was low budget as hell. But his Cyrano was terrific. And this time around, I kind of realized that Cyrano de Bergerac, as we have him in this movie, is bipolar. He's manic at times. He's depressive at times. He's incredibly talented. The best swordsman in Paris. Doesn't suffer fools gladly. Eloquent as hell. I just love this movie. In fact, when I first saw the 1950 Cyrano de Bergerac, it's the only time I skipped school, because this is in the days when you couldn't record things. And Cyrano de Bergerac was on the noon movie on TV. And I knew my mate Spud was staying home from school that day. So I skipped school. It was in early December. I skipped school, and you normally needed a note from a parent if you skipped school. Otherwise, you got into deep shit. So we watched Cyrano de Bergerac. We loved it. Went back to school, and they kept asking for the school note from my parents while I took the day off, because I took very few days off school. And I put them off until the school holidays started, and then nobody questioned me in the new year. So it's the only movie I ever skipped school for. The only time I ever skipped school for anything. Friday says, I have a soft spot for Roxanne. Yeah, Marla Powers is really interesting as Roxanne in this one. She plays it well. And I think she's a bit underrated, because Jose Ferreira Cyrano dominates so much of the screen. The other characters don't get much room to be what they have to be. But I found a really good copy of it on YouTube. Normally the copies of Cyrano de Bergerac on YouTube are pretty sketchy. Like, the quality's not there. But this one, the print was good. And I liked revisiting that. I try not to revisit movies I really like too much, otherwise the gloss goes off them. But with Cyrano, I haven't seen it for a few years, so I watched it. Then I watched a really weird 2020 movie that was made in the north of England for a budget of about £3. And it doesn't end, it just stops. And it's a movie called Parasite. During a trip to a science fiction convention, nerdy Simon is transported to a swinger's den in a parallel universe. But there's a perfectly scientific explanation. Mostly non-professional actors. Really dumb movie, and the pacing's off. It's got the worst synth score I've ever seen. And yes, it's made on zero budget. I fully accept that. But there's no excuse for a synth score that bad when there are a number of assets that you can find legally to give your movie a little bit of oomph. I don't recommend that one. It was on Tubi. It's not good, and I felt diminished after I watched it. So that one just did not land at all for me. And I've got to find something now to watch that's a lot higher quality to wash the memory of that film out of my brain. It's trying to be Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but it's not. For instance, I was thinking of the comedy. Yeah, Cyrano's just great. I love Cyrano. Sword fighting is pretty damn good as well. Though there are a couple of scenes where you can notice it's not Jose Faria doing the sword fighting. It's a double with the proboscis. So that's what I've watched so far this year. It hasn't been a bad year. Yes, I have been, scraping the bottom of the pond. But then I watched The Secret Agent, and that makes up for it. And I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I've just got notifications. I've got a whole bunch of stuff that Imprint and Umbrella are sending me. And there's some incredible stuff in the Umbrella ones. The big thing that Imprint is sending me is a mind-blowing release of something I like a lot. So anybody got any questions? Ask me some questions. This is what I do. I can't dance. I can't do jokes. Zami says Memoria is the best film in years. Let me just check out Memoria. (2021) film, starring Tilda Swinton, and it looks like it's a Colombian movie. Cool. I'll keep the tab open on that one as well. Not going to look at spoilers on it. But yeah, I want to find something really good but accessible to watch with Billy when he comes down tomorrow, because we do have our movie date, and I kind of got to gear the movie each year to how old he is. He's now turning 16 in March. So I've got to find a movie to watch with him at that age. I want to kind of encourage him to watch better films. Though after this one, it then becomes his turn to pick the movie. And I know he's going to pick something shit because a 16-year-old kid. But I want to try to find something that will engage him, but which is kind of going to lift him a little bit, if you know what I mean. I want that to happen as part of my uncle duties. Doing so much family stuff this week. Deb says, Tubi is the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah, there's so much interesting stuff in there. There's also a lot of good old TV series. Do people want me to, I might do a video about cool old TV series that are on Tubi. I might make a note of that. Where is the writing implement? It's here. Because I think that might be an idea for a future video. Is it just me, or is everybody's handwriting getting worse? Friday says, picked up a Just Franco film on Blu-ray for £6 that neither I nor my friend Tracy, who knows more about exploitation movies than me. Shining Sex. Not watched it yet. Have I heard of it? I've heard of lots of Just Franco movies. I saw Psychomania at a film festival years ago. Zami Adams says, show me First Blood. Good for a young lad. No, I'm not showing you First Blood. I wanted to find something new for him that's interesting. I first saw First Blood when I was living in the middle of New South Wales in a town called Dubbo, where me and my friend Balrog were living there for reasons that are reasons. And we went to see First Blood, and there were lots of splody bits and lots of action bits, and I'll give you a war you won't believe, all that kind of stuff. And we walked past a cop car, and we said to each other, if we were Rambo, we would have blown that car up. Good times. The only other movie we really saw memorably, actually we saw two. The only other two movies we saw at the cinema while we were living there for 6 months. The first one was E.T., which we didn't like. The second one we saw was Victor Victoria with Julie Andrews and James Garner. And we were the only people in the audience because it was a movie with queer themes. And in the middle of New South Wales in the 1980s. Not a lot of queer people survived in that milieu. Ralph says, my handwriting is only good if I put myself in the mind space of drawing the letters. Yeah, that could work. Yeah. I mean, mine's legible. It's not entirely to shit, but it's not as cool as it might be, or as it used to be. Dodge Morgan says, how about Stand By Me? Might even give him ideas to go off exploring in his way. He does it anyway. He got in trouble for climbing on the outside of a train. So he's exploring things. And I want to go to the cinema with him because I'm trying to encourage cinema. So unless Stand By Me is showing in a cinema, it's not going to happen. Forsyth says, cool TV series of 59 is Johnny Staccato with Cassavetes. Yeah, Cassavetes' Johnny Staccato is great. Much cooler than Peter Gunn. Friday says, I always find Jess Franco a little disappointing. Like almost all exploitation movies, they threaten you with a good time, but don't deliver on the premise. Yeah, and Jess Franco is very, very mixed. Some of them are okay, some of them weren't. Zammy Adams says, First Blood was monumental on VHS. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a video store that didn't have a copy of it. Ralph says, has he seen Thing from Another World or even John Carpenter's remake? Maybe, but I'm taking him to the cinema, so I've got to find something that's showing in a flea pit. And I'm going to do my research later this afternoon. Friday says, what exploitation movies do you think fully deliver? The first nudie musical, I love that. Let's see what else. The Ginger trilogy really delivers on exploitation. The Sherry Kafara movies, Ginger, The Abductors, and Girls Are For Loving. They are total full-on exploitation movies of the 1970s. Dick says, in that first Rambo movie, Rambo doesn't actually kill anyone. There's only one human death, which is caused by the character unclipping the helicopter safety belt. Yeah. But then they go full Reagan with Rambo and follow that path, which is a dishonor to the character. D. says, I've read biography of the real Cyrano de Bergerac. He was an interesting man, Soul the atheist, an early science fiction writer. His nose wasn't big and he probably gay, but he did win a mass sword fight. Yeah. He was a kind of Renaissance man. A polymath and really interesting. I didn't like the Depardieu Cyrano de Bergerac. I know a lot of people have a lot to say about it, but for me it just didn't hit because in my mind it's always Jose Ferrer. I'm kind of imprinted on it like a baby bird. But other exploitation films I think fully engage. Killer Elite does. The Killer Elite with Peckinpah's movie really engages as an exploitation movie. Then there's things like Vanishing Point and Dirty Mary Crazy Larry. I think those ones really land well. Flesh Gordon as an exploitation movie works well because it pastiches Flash Gordon perfectly within the context of an adult film. The satire works moving my chair in so I can put my feet up on the cushion and get a bit comfortable. But yeah, Serenade de Bergerac, I could watch every couple of years forever. It just works for me. Maybe I should watch some more swashbuckling movies. The Crimson Pirate. I should rewatch The Crimson Pirate and The Flame in the Arrow, both of which have Burt Lancaster and Nick Cravat. Those kind of ones. Hey, Doug, how you doing? Sally's not here, Doug. She's in the Latrobe Valley house sitting today. I'm picking her up tomorrow because picking women up is something I enjoy doing. And yeah, and she's coming back after 10 days house sitting for her sister. So that's going to be noisy because I've had a nice quiet house apart from the cats. It's been me and the cats for 10 days. And yes, it does mean I've got to do all the household chores. But it has been a nice break, and Sal's got stuff done while she was down house sitting. But it's been very quiet here. Zammy Adams said, I watched The Professional last night, classic Belmondo. I like that one. I actually bought my DVD copy of The Professional. Was it The Professional? No, it was Le Magnifique in Paris when I was there in 2004. But yeah, I like Belmondo. The best Belmondo scene in a movie. If you see The Burglars, which also has Omar Sharif in it, great action movie. I want to get a 4K of that sometime. But if you watch The Burglars, there's a scene where Belmondo is hiding out on top of a dump truck full of rocks. And he's hiding out from people. He's trying to get away from them. And the dump truck backs up to a cliff and tips. And the rocks come tumbling out with Belmondo on them. And there's a wanna of Belmondo falling off the truck and running down this cliff with boulders going all around him. And it's him doing it. It's not a stunt man. It's Jean-Claude Belmondo running down this cliff with these head-sized boulders, bouncing around him. And he gets to the bottom and just kind of straightens his clothes out and walks away. But it's the best actor stunt shot I've ever seen in my life. Risky as hell, but it really works. It's like all of the stunt work that Belmondo does in L'Homme de Rio, that man from Rio. Fantastic moment in cinema. I really should rewatch The Burglars, I think. But yeah, Belmondo just nailed it every time. I really like him in so many things. And we're talking about that a while back. Nouvelle Vague and Blue Moon. And Nouvelle Vague, the actor playing Belmondo in that story about the making of Breathless, does a pretty good job. Doesn't have quite the smashed up mug that Belmondo had, but he plays it nicely. And Blue Moon and Nouvelle Vague are playing down at the Cinema Nova here in Melbourne. Franny says, I always get the Crimson Pirate and Swashbuckler confused. It's easy to understand when you realise the UK title of the Scarlet Buccaneer. I love the Scarlet Buccaneer with Robert Shaw. Robert Shaw was also in a TV series called The Buccaneers, which is on Tubi. Everything comes around. So I don't know whether it's going to be on Tubi where you are, Friday, but you can watch The Buccaneers with Robert Shaw on Tubi in some countries, including here. And that's kind of fun because it's got incredibly low budgets. But you get all sorts of characters like Robert Brown turn up. And I think you also get a few actors who turn up in Hammer horror films as well, turning up in that series. He says, Day the Jackal is probably my favourite thriller film. Yeah, it's not too bad. Is it James Fox or Edward Fox playing the Jackal? It's one of the Foxes. which works. I believe the series with Eddie Redmayne's not bad, though I've never really taken to Eddie Redmayne as an actor. There's I don't know what it is, but I don't. Yeah, I'm not keen on him for some reason. Evil Pixie says the ship in the Buccaneers was more just outside my house in Morecambe. That's kind of cool. Eric Morecambe would have been good. It was Edward Fox in the Day of the Jekyll. Thank you, Dooley. But yeah, the Buccaneers is worth checking out. I checked out a couple of episodes. They're very limited in budget, which of course means they're limited in scope. It's like if I rewatched The Adventures of Robin Hood with Richard Green. I saw the pilot episode of that, and Liam McKern's playing like an evil lord in that. And the castle they've got for them is basically a whole bunch of painted canvas flats in a shape with a few props in the middle. And that's kind of fun to see how low budget it goes with those series. Forsyth says Don Juan 1926 is a great swashbuckler. John Barrymore and Estelle Taylor. John Barrymore and Estelle Taylor, yeah. Of course, then you've got the Robin Hood with Errol Flynn and Basil Rathbone sword fighting. Deb says, I don't like Eddie Redmayne much, but he was superb in Day of the Jackal. I think the series was poorly paced, but he was excellent. Okay, thanks for that. I might check it out in that case. Because, yeah, I'm kind of intrigued by seeing the series, because I'm looking for something to watch after Slow Horses. And I've already watched the other Mick Herron series, Down Cemetery Road, so I've watched that. Deb says it's worth a watch to see the Day of the Jackal series. Thank you. Sammy Adams says, Marty Supreme's a clean. Yeah, I've heard that before. I was having a chat with some people while I was waiting to go and see The Secret Agent. And Marty Supreme was recommended to me by a couple of film reviewers. But Marty Supreme always sounds like something that a glutton would ask for in an ice cream shop. Chalamet I like as an actor. I think he's got a good variety of roles. And as he ages, I think his career is going to go more interestingly. I also want to rewatch One Battle After Another. I think I'm going to wait for physical media, and I'll get a 4K of that, because I want to rewatch One Battle After Another when it becomes available. Things are falling off my desk because I have them piled haphazardly here. Just let me pick it up. Yeah, I'm not that big on ping pong movies usually. The last ping pong movie I saw on a flight from Los Angeles to Tokyo in 1998. And it was a movie called Ping Pong Bathhouse, which was about a woman running a little rural bathhouse in Japan. It was a really charming comedy. And I haven't been able to find a copy of it ever since. Doug says, love Errol Flynn, Basil Rathbone sword fight and Robin Hood, but I struggle with Flynn's page boy haircut. I kind of like that. I mean, it works for me because the whole lot works. But if you look carefully in one scene, they're in Sherwood Forest and doing Sherwood Foresty things. But if you look very carefully, a car goes past behind the trees, which I always look for. I forget where the scene is in the movie. But you do get to see a car go past in the background. Deb says, Mighty Supreme sounds like fun. Yeah. It does have Gwyneth Paltrow in it, but we'll allow that. Friday says, have you seen Dust Bunny yet? No. It hasn't come onto anything I've got access to at the moment, but I hear good things about Dust Bunny, and it is definitely on the list. When I was down in Nipaluna, Deb, you'll like this. I did a ghost tour, and I hate ghost tours. Sal's taken me on 3 ghost tours: Edinburgh, Hobart, and Melbourne. Never had fun at any of them. Did get a dram of whiskey in Edinburgh, but the ghost tour that used to go up Battery Point in Hobart takes you past the house where Errol Flynn was born, which used to be a small hospital, but is now no longer. That was the only part of any ghost tour I ever took that I enjoyed, seeing the house where Errol Flynn was born. That's it. Hey, Graham, how you doing? It's actually morning here. It is 8:20 in the morning, 15 degrees centigrade, it says on my smart device. It's the other thing I was going to mention too. I keep getting addicted to getting McDonald's Happy Meals to get the toys because I'm a shallow person by nature. I got a hedgehog with wings yesterday. I just wanted something light to eat, and I couldn't be stuffed eating healthy. So I got a toy, which is a quite substantial hedgehog with wings. And that delights me. I don't know why, but it delights me that I've got a hedgehog with wings. Happy with that. Good purchase. But yeah, that's what we'll do. While you're here, I'll pick your brains and we'll work out what movie I'm going to go see with the nephew. So you won't be able to see this, so I apologize for that. But I'm going to see what's showing later this week at my local flea pit. Let's have a look at Future. We'll try for Thursday because that's when new movies come out. We can see 28 years later, The Bone Temple. I'm tempted to do that, but I don't know whether you've seen the previous one. We can see Anaconda, which I don't mind seeing. There's a Telugu movie, because we get a lot of Indian diaspora movies in my local, called Anaganga Okaraku, which I think is a dance movie. Avatar Fire and Ash, which I don't want to see. There's a Christian movie, an animated version of the story of David and Goliath. There's another Indian movie called Durandar. Durandar is a star-studded saga inspired by incredible true events, set in the gritty criminal vein of Underworld, with a backdrop of Indian patriotism, featuring action sequences, Shakespearean betrayals, and tradecraft espionage. Don't think that'd be the right one for him. Five Nights at Freddy's 2's out, and he's a big Five Nights at Freddy's fan, which I don't want to see. There's an animated car racing movie called Grand Prix of Europe. There's a kid movie called Grow. Welcome to the pumpkin capital of the world. No, screw that. I'm allergic to pumpkins. Hamnet, which he's not going to like. Six, the musical, about the 6 wives of Henry VIII. Song Sung Blue, which is that Kate Hudson, Hugh Jackman movie about a Neil Diamond tribute band. I can't think of anything worse. The Housemaid, he might like that because it's got nudity in it, but no. SpongeBob movie, Search for SquarePants. I'm tempted by that. I like the first SpongeBob movie. Wicked for Good, Zootopia 2, Return to Silent Hill, but that's a late night movie. And that's about it by the look of things. Might have to take him somewhere else. Dick says 9:20 in the evening here in Dover. Still on Sunday night. Deb says, used to rent the building where Flynn and his family lives. My in-laws are in Battery Point. I'll have to ask them where the ex-hospital is. Yeah, it is. But I hate ghost tours. D-Lee says, anyone showing The Princess Bride? That would be good. Nah, they aren't. I might take him down to the Sun Cinema in Yarraville, where we've gone before, and they have the comfy seats. We'll see what's there. Graham says, well, we're going to watch some David Lynch movies that are local over the next few weeks. That sounds like a cool thing. Blue Velvet on the big screen is great because that blue velvet curtain at the start looks three-dimensional. But I will find something to watch with the nephew, even if it is Anaconda. That might be a good one because it's about engagement level. Doug says, Song Sung Blue doesn't appeal to me, but apparently has good reviews. Yeah, I'm not a big Neil Diamond fan. And the Neil Diamond tribute band is like down the curve of that. And I don't like Hugh Jackman because in the first regime of the current incumbent in America, he was hanging out with the younger Trumps. So screw that guy. But yeah, I'll find something to watch with him. We'll have a good time. We always do. We always get all of the munchies and the drinks. And usually we try to get a recliner seat so we put our feet up and just wing it, have a boys' day and just groove in the moment and groove in the fact that I'm sharing a family tradition. My uncles took me out to movies when I was very, very young. I saw This Island Earth with my uncles John and Roy. And so I wanted to pass on that tradition to Billy as my nephew. And I think that's a cool thing to be able to do. Just encourage that love of going to the cinema. And he loves going to the cinema. I think between me and his parents, we've done pretty well in keeping that cinephilia alive. Graham says, Bone Temple is extreme in parts. Enjoyed it more than the previous movie. I like the previous one, but I do want to see Bone Temple as well. And I will talk about it on the channel when I do. But I like the fact that they've got Nia DaCosta to direct it. So they've got a different set of eyes on the directing chair rather than Danny Boyle. I think that's a good idea. Oh, Franny, treat yourself to watching The Gentleman. £5. Okay, Franny. Fart gun it is. Oh, that's too loud to do that. I'm sorry I did that. Thank you, Franny. And stay warm up there. Bone Temple made me think of Bone Tomahawks as deadly. Bone Tomahawks is a good movie. Not an easy movie to watch, but a good twist on the Westerns. And it's very confronting. It actually turned up on SBS On Demand, one of our government-owned stations here on linear TV, but it also is on their streaming service called SBS On Demand. So it freaked out some people. People would go, oh, I'm going to watch a Western, and then they get Bone Tomahawk, and suddenly they're bisecting people. And some people didn't handle it as well as they might have. Franny says, our fart guns are in sync again. See, the internet does have a useful purpose. But, Bone Tomahawk I like. I've got a copy of it too. I've really got it. That's what I've got to do today. That's my task for today. Apart from keeping you people entertained for 2 hours. I've got to go up the back and finish cataloging the movies because I want to get the back area where the movies are tidied up so that when Julian comes to interview me for his documentary, we've actually got somewhere to sit. So my job today, apart from changing the cat litter, is to tidy up the movie room. Deb says, I'm well over zombie movies, but it's like Bone Tomahawk. I'm off to see Bone Temple. Yeah. And Doug says, Bone Tomahawk is very confronting. I did not expect that twist. The twist is good. The twist works. And even though it is a fairly low-budget film, it just lands itchy nose for some reason. But I should rewatch that too at some stage. But, of course, that's the joy of physical media. You can rewatch it whenever you like. You're not reliant on some algorithm. Doug That's the other thing I was going to mention about online stuff. Give me a moment. Yeah, there's a lot of kerfuffle in America about a guy called David Ellison, who's the son of Larry Ellison, who is in charge of Paramount Skydance Corporation. And basically, he's a Trumpista, and he doesn't particularly like movies. He's trying to hinder the merge with Netflix and Warner Brothers because he wants to keep things going. He's the guy who's handpicked Barry Weiss as the editor-in-chief of, I think it's CBS. Is it CBS? I'm trying to read here. But this guy's like the worst person to be in charge of a movie studio or a media studio in the world, because he's there for the deal. He's not there because he likes movies or he likes TV series or he likes anything else. He likes the power and the money. He's like, a Roy Cohn of the modern era. And there's a lot of buzz around. He has produced films. He was a producer on the last two Mission Impossible films and World War Z and Star Trek Into Darkness and things like that. But he's there for the deal in the same way that Trump's there for the deal. But he's getting executive producer things on things that are coming, like the Neuromancer TV series, which I'm looking forward to because I'm a big William Gibson fan. But apparently this David Ellison guy is not the kind of guy you'd leave your wallet with if you went swimming. But I do want to see the Neuromancer series when it comes out. D-Lee says, see Bone Tomahawk, you might not want to visit a butcher shop for a while. I can differentiate between special effects and charcuterie. But, it is a tough film to watch, but I think it's an honest film as well, which I kind of like. So what are people looking forward to in the near future as far as things that are coming out? I'm still on the Marvel bandwagon because I'm a comic book geek at heart as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. I'm looking forward to Supergirl. All of that kind of stuff is my jam in one sense. But there are some quality films I want to see. I want to see Hamnet. Probably will see Marty Supreme. The Bride I also want to see. Is that directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal? I think it is. And it's really interesting. Christian Bale makes an interesting looking Frankenstein's monster. The makeup effects on that look superb. With the nose, it doesn't look like it came. Two parts of the nose don't look like it came from the same person. All of that kind of stuff just works for me. And the Frankenstein myth, and it's become a myth now, even though it was based on the novel. The Frankenstein myth is endlessly giving. Things like DC's Creature Commandos had the Bride of Frankenstein in a very different way. And the backstory for the bride in that one is crazy good. And Frankenstein's monster in that one is very, very different from any Frankenstein's monster we've seen before. Interestingly enough, voiced by David Harbour, which has given a whole new meaning with the recent kerfuffle in his life. Franny says, finally got around to watching Predator Badlands. Epic, I loved it. Possibly my favourite Predator movie. I need a rewatch to be sure. It's a good, honest film. And it blends the aspects of Predator and the Alien franchise that I like. Xenomorphs I don't particularly care for, one way or the other. And those big, pale geezers they had in a lot of the Alien movies. Don't care for that. But Weyland Yutani and their machinations, I'm there for that. Doug says, I'm looking forward to hopefully a new Bond being announced this year. Fingers crossed. Depends on whether Amazon fucks it up. which is a possibility. Because I know Jeff Bezos' wife wants to be a Bond girl. But we'll see. There's a possibility with Denis Villeneuve directing, we may get lightning in a bottle. But I don't know enough yet to be able to make an informed judgment about that. Deb says, The Bride, Hamlet, Avengers, Doomsday. Yeah, I'm there for that. Dune 3 and The Odyssey. I mean, the return of The Odyssey I'm kind of looking forward to because I like Christopher Nolan stuff sometimes. But I much prefer the return, the version that was done a couple of years ago with Ralph Fiennes. That version at the end of the story of The Odyssey, with Odysseus coming back to Thrace. I like that movie. But we'll see how we go with The Odyssey. Friday says, loving Starfleet Academy so far. Gina Shearer as a Klingon Jem'Hadar is brilliant casting. I saw the first 2 episodes of Starfleet Academy, and I like it. Holly Hunter playing the captain. Holly Hunter's age appropriate for me, and I thought, yeah. And having a captain who likes walking around barefoot and lounges in the captain's chair and brings a very different, mature perspective than all of the swinging dicks we've had before. I'm there for that. Really interesting character. The younger actors, are neither here nor there for me. But I like Holly Hunter playing the Captain Abe in that. It's got potential, and ignore all the shit you hear from fulminating men mostly, and young men mostly. Starfleet Academy looks like it's got legs. Yeah, Lee says she's 400 years old. Yeah, that means that she's age appropriate for me. But Holly Hunter is really having fun in this. And so is Paul Giamatti playing the main villain. Giamatti is a science fiction geek and has been since Jesus was playing Cowboys and Indians. And Giamatti knows his science fiction as well. And him playing the main villain, he just gets to, let his freak flag fly. And that really works for me. So you should try it. And Ferroni says Holly Hunter's fantastic. Yeah. Very different version of the captain of a starship. And the Academy is a starship which links into a university campus in San Francisco. But where necessary, will go up into orbit, get its warp drive attached, and fang off to where it needs to go. And it is set in the 32nd century, much later than most of the other Star Trek series, except for Disco. It's after the burn, where the Federation fractured when warp drive wasn't able to be used. And they're now trying to reassemble the Federation again and make it something new and different. I think that's a good place to set a series where you don't know what's going to happen because you've seen it in another series. This is all clear skies for Star Trek to move on, and I like that idea. And Lisa's great casting in Hunter and Giamatti, yeah. Doug says Callum Turner's popular for Bond. Maybe it's me, but I don't see Bond in him. Yeah, his eyes are too close together. I don't know that he's got what it takes. I think you need a bit of the street tough in Bond, which is why Daniel Craig was such a good choice. He doesn't look like he's just a posh guy who looks good in clothing. And I think you need somebody who's a little bit rough around the edges. Lee says, it's nice to see the Doctor back in Star Trek. Yeah, I hope they'll capitalise that on me. Yeah, Robert Picardo, great actor. And he's got that character nailed down now, and he's given a little bit of oxygen to expand the character as well. Deb says, I've got a sick cat, so I'm out of here to ring the vet. Be well, friends. See you next time. Yeah, thanks, Deb, and all the best to your cat. Cats are family. We all know that. And when they're ill, we suffer with them. Absolutely. Doug says, that's exactly what I thought about Callum Turner, beady eyes. Yeah, who's the bird with the beady eyes? Yeah, you need somebody who can play the blunt instrument in Bond. I don't know who that'd be, but I like the idea of all the best Bonds really have been working class actors. Daniel Craig didn't come from privilege. Sean Connery didn't come from privilege. And for all his sins, neither did George Lazenby. Roger Moore was basically a pretty young actor who married an older woman to boost his career as Major Dorothy Squires. But the best Bonds are scrappers. And I think that's what's needed for the job. And it's hard because people of privilege fill the ranks of English actors much more, particularly younger ones, much more than people who have a working class background, because the odds are against working class actors in England. I mean, there are exceptions, but they tend to be older character actors like Eddie Marsan and people like that. Stephen Graham. Bob Holness was the best Bond, but he only did it on radio. Forsyth says, didn't they float the idea of a female 007? Well, there has been a female 007. There was a female 007 during the Daniel Craig era. But no, I think you're going to lose too much of the audience if you do that. And it's all about eyes. It's all about the algorithm. You got to have a male James Bond, and whether you like it or not, probably somebody of white heritage at this stage. I mean, my argument against having, say, Idris Elba, they were talking about for a while. My argument against that is, in a deeper level, that's a Bond in blackface. The character's background is French Scottish. Swiss Scottish. And if you want to give us a decent black super agent, give us a decent black super agent. Don't do a different paint job on an already established one. Give us somebody with a black heritage, even if it is in the UK. The experience of a black person in the UK is a lot different than the experience of James Bond. So give us something different there. Give us something new. Tell us new stories with new characters. You don't have to rebadge an existing IP. Graham says, where have all the people gone? As I've seen it, a post-apocalyptic favourite on YouTube. It's got Peter Graves in it. I don't like Peter Graves. It was a TV movie, so it doesn't have the grit I expect from the 1970s because it was an American TV movie. I much prefer cinematic exploitation films of that era. I mean, some people might like it, but for me, it just didn't hit. So who do other people think would be a good James Bond? I know that Pierce Brosnan was talking about the fact he'd like to do an older Bond movie, like a Bond in his 60s, doing stuff. I mean, that could work because Amazon's got it now. It could be a limited series and set in a slightly different universe. That might work. Though Brosnan isn't my favourite Bond by a long shot. I think his Bond didn't have the acting chops that Daniel Craig had. Well, Daniel Craig gave us a plausibly human Bond, and one that didn't just act for the quips and didn't just act for the gratuitous violence. It was integral to the character. Having said that, I'm looking forward to a Bond thing, whether Amazon does it or not. And there are some good older movies turning up on YouTube as well. There are a couple of channels around that really hit interestingly as far as giving us good prints of old movies. Whether they're doing it legitimately or not is another matter. But there are channels like Shout Studios, for instance, is showing interesting things. They're showing old TV series as well. They're doing like live streams of Pee-wee's Playhouse, for instance. And they're doing movies like, let's have a look here. They put out Hopscotch with Morton Matthau in it, and Sword and the Sorcerer from back in the day, which is kind of fun. And the Elvira movies are on there as well. Trying to see what else they've got. They've got, let's have a look here, the 1939 Man in the Iron Mask. And Ben, the sequel to Willard's, in there. Warlords of the 21st Century. And Shukma, about feral baboons, in there. Attack of the Crab Monsters, Chopping Mall, Big Bad Mama with Angie Dickinson. So, yeah, Shock Studios are putting out some really interesting stuff. They got the rights to on YouTube as well. Doug says, Theo James, the guy in the Gentleman TV show, would be a good Bond. I'm hearing buzz about Theo James. I've seen him in a few things. He looks like he's got the riz for it. Franny says, I need to see Hopscotch again. Yeah, Hopscotch is just such fun. And there's a real chemistry between Walter Matthau and Glenda Jackson in that, where they're playing off each other beautifully. They know their roles and they know their characters, and they're just having a good time with it. Let's see if we find something else that's showing some good stuff. ITV Retro on YouTube is showing Rising Damp with Leonard Rossiter and episodes of The Thunderbirds. And The Prisoner, if you haven't got a copy of The Prisoner with Patrick McGowan, that's on there as well. Sapphire and Steel, The Persuaders, whole bunch of good stuff there. Trying to see what else I've got on my list. There's a thing called Boomer Channel. I'm not sure it's legit or not, but they've got a copy of The Big Combo from 1955. Pagan Island, The Killers with Burt Lancaster and Ava Gardner. Invasion of the Bee-Girls, they've got a copy of. I don't know whether that's complete or not because it does have nudity on it. Graham says the Neptune Factor popped up on YouTube. Neptune Factor is so funny because when they go underwater, you can tell they filmed it in a fish tank with a tiny model because the fish are like this big compared to a little submarine. But you know they're like fish tank fish, just blown up a bit. It's hilariously bad. You see, Boomer Channel has weird things, That's where I saw Cyrano de Bergerac. They got a good copy of that. And Morocco with Marlene Dietrich. And so there's a whole bunch. They got a whole bunch of TV movies. The quality's not great, but they got them there. They've got some horror films as well. Earth versus Flying Saucers. They've got some Tarzan movies, some comedies, romance, film noir, including The Prowler and Borderline with Fred McMurray in it. The Conan the Adventurer TV series, they've got that on there for some reason. So if you look around YouTube, there's a whole bunch of weird, wonderful stuff. As I said, some of it is legit, some of it's not. But there is enough there that if you're browsing, and I often do that on YouTube, I just kind of, dance around the algorithm and see what's there and see what might be engaging. And that's where I saw Cyrano, even though I do have a physical copy of Cyrano de Bergerac, which is pretty good. I'm not going to walk up to the back room when I can just go like this and get it to show me something. But there's lots of possibilities there. I mean, the last thing you're going to watch these days, unless you're watching the news, is old school linear television. Very few people watch that these days who aren't very, very old and who don't know how to use technology. YouTube and a whole bunch of other platforms and streaming services. If you want the old stuff, they're there. New stuff, you can go to the cinema. You can watch it on a subscription service if you want to. But we have such an abundance of riches at our fingertips, literally at our fingertips. Just requires one of these buggers to enjoy and to get our fix on the things we like. Graham says, was I able to watch The Mad Death? Not yet. As I said, I've been doing real world stuff over the last month and a half, 2 months, and that's kind of curtailed some of my video watching because life happens. But I'm looking forward to the big drive tomorrow where I'm picking up Sal and picking up the nephew, and we're going to go and have meat pies out in the country. It's going to be 30 degrees again tomorrow, sunny day, middle of summer. So we should have a good time with that. And then we get to watch movies as well. There's no downside to any of this stuff. But yeah, I am looking forward to the future of cinema. I think that's something I really want to emphasize this year on the channel. I don't mind the nostalgia. The nostalgia does well for the channel. But ultimately, it gives diminishing returns because there's only a certain number of old films you can talk about. And there's only a certain type of old film that will engage an audience. So I'm kind of trying to blend the nostalgia factor, which has a really heavy gravity pull on the channel, and newer stuff that people might enjoy who like the nostalgic stuff. I'm really trying to do a lot of that in the channel in the future. Okay. If you like this old film, you're going to like this new film, or you might like this new film, and you're more inclined to. I think that's where I want the channel to be, and I want to encourage people to not just look at stuff they've already seen, because ultimately you're a dog biting its own tail. Find the stuff that's in the type of movie you like, but isn't the same old shit. Graham says, summer days, lucky me. Yeah, well, yeah, it happens every 6 months or so, or every 12 months or so. And I'm going to enjoy it while I can because winter will come around inevitably, as George R.R. Martin has told us. And I'm savoring the sunlight while I have it. I'm savoring the cats enjoying this. Cats like summer better than they like winter around here because you let them out summer and winter. They'll come in quicker in winter. But in summertime, Luna will sit on a rooftop and groom herself and just enjoy the day. And I like that for her. And yesterday I was out and about in the summer sunshine. And that was fun too, even though I'll tell you what happened. This is weird. I went to my local kind of fast train station. There's 2 train lines. One's fast, one's not. Go there, and they've got bus replacements. The bane of my life. They've got bus replacements. And they said, the bus is taking you to Laverton Station. And it's going to get you there in an hour. And I just went, screw that. Got in the car, drove to Laverton Station, and took the train from there. Crazy. Oh, Peter, $10. Thank you very much, Peter. Here we go. This one's for you. I'm not going to blast it in my ear this time because that hurt. You get an extra one. The second one was. Thanks again, comrade. Appreciate that, mate. Friday says, I'm always looking for new stuff, shows, films, TV, music, skills to learn books, science. I think that's how we keep the neuroplasticity going, Friday. Just learning new skills, seeing new things, being engaged with new things, new technologies. I mean, 20 years ago, the idea of me streaming to the planet by video on very high definition was an impossible dream. 50 years ago, it was science fiction. But I learned how to do it. I don't have all the skills down, but I learned how to do it. and I enjoy it, and I enjoy the fact that people enjoy it as well. All of that is magic to me, and that's one of the things I'm going to talk about when I talk to Julian when he's interviewing me. Is how I came from a place where you could not own a copy of movies, you could not physically have a copy of a movie, and you needed to either see it in the cinema or wait to see if it came on TV and be in front of that TV when it comes on. That's a movie desert in a sense. And that's where I grew up. And it wasn't until I was in my late 20s, early 30s that I could, late 20s, I could even have a VHS player. That gives a different perspective on movie ownership than younger people who've always known some form of movie ownership have. Forsyth says, I never cease to be amazed by modern technology. Absolutely. I mean, I could put 20 high definition movies on that, which is a thumb drive, and watch them and carry them around in my pocket. That's mind-blowing to me. I still have that. I walk up the back where all the movies are, and there are thousands of them. I have literally thousands of movies. And I still have that perception of this is something I could never have dreamt of as a child or even as a young adult. Being in a room full of movies I own, and I could pick anyone out and watch it anytime I like. That is being wealthy to me. That's having, not privilege, but being rich is having the ability to do that, having the ability to have that access, unedited and unmanaged and unalgorithmed by anybody else. Graham says, what's it going to be like in 100 years long after we're all gone? What's life going to be like? It's going to be the same in some ways. We're still going to love, we're still going to hate, we're still going to yearn for things we can't have and yearn for things which we attain. We're still going to aspire to things, some of which are thwarted in our aspirations, some of which we attain through hard work or luck. Human beings are going to be human beings. We always are. You look historically in documents that aren't edited by anybody else. And people have always had that. Kids run around and play with their mates. Kids, adults feel loss and grief and fear and passion, and they learn things, they stop learning things. They have enemies, they have friends, they have lovers. All of that's going to happen in the future. It's only the set dressing that's going to change. We will defeat tyrants. We will aspire to be better. Things will get better, but not evenly distributed in this world. That's what the future is going to be like in 100 years. Friday says, it changed everything once we could record movies on VHS off the telly. And when they switched the pricing from low volume, high costs, Star Wars was 77 to 100 quid to movies at 10 quid, low cost, high volume. Absolutely, it changed a lot. And the other thing too is there's a lot of movies that are being sold in thrift stores now, which aren't available elsewhere. And Diddley, I missed this one on the chat. Films from Africa, the Middle East, and South America are worth exploring. A lot happening in those areas. Yeah, the Secret Agent is one of those films, and that's pretty spectacular. And that comes out of Brazil and out of a different movie tradition as well. Peter says, we're all blessed in 2026. I remember audio taping episodes of Jerry Anderson's UFO and copying the dialogue in school notebooks in 78. We always wanted to own movies. People bought the soundtracks to movies because they couldn't have the movies themselves. Friday says, there's a David Cronenberg interview with him discussing the idea of having a personal film library. Cronenberg's right. Anyway, people, guess what? We really must knock that naughty clock that says it's time to go. It goes so fast. Our time has passed, and we must end our show. Thank you to everybody who's been a part of this. It's been a really good live stream. And thanks to people all across this clay and granite planet who stayed up late or got up early or cut their day in half to watch this. Really appreciate it. I'll be back soon with another one of these. I've got to go and do real world stuff now. So everybody, enjoy yourselves. Take care. We're all thinking about each other, okay? I'll catch you next time.